Hi guys, my name is Kaushik Patel and today we will discuss about the AWS VPC. We'll try to understand, try to answer few questions and try to understand what is a VPC in AWS. First of all, let us try to understand what is a VPC. VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud. In AWS, it is basically it is basically used to isolate logically from the other virtual networks in the AWS cloud. So basically that the VPC will be defined with certain amount of a certain IP range, so that you can logically isolate it from the other instances from the other users. So if I have to define it, I can define it as another virtual private cloud is a virtual network dedicated to your AWS account. It is logically isolated from other virtual networks in the AWS. You can specify an IP address range for the VPC, add subnet and associates security groups and configure route tables. So that is a VPC. Now to demo a VPC in AWS, will further have to answer few more questions and understand few more things. So basically today we'll try to answer three questions: how to create a new VPC, how to create a public subnet and a private subnet, and how to create an internet gateway and attach to a new VPC. Now to start off, let us go to the AWS Management Console. You can search once you log into this AWS console, you can search the VPC on the search box. Here you go. You can click in here. Okay, this is the management console page that comes once you click on the VPC. Over here you can see basically some of the VPCs, subnets, route tables, internet gateways, DHCP options, network ACLs. If you can see the numbers these numbers are mentioned as one. That means these are by default created by the AWS. So to check your VPC, the VPC which is there, we can click on this your VPC. You can see this is the one which is created by default. Okay, now let us create our own VPC. To create our own VPC, we need to navigate to this create VPC. Click. Okay. Put in the name of our VPC. Let's say I put in my VPC. Okay. Now we have to put in the IPv4 CIDR. Now I am sure many of you might be having this question: what is a CIDR and why do we put this number? Now to answer that, let us understand what is CIDR. Like, to define CIDR, CIDR is basically classless interdomain routing, also called supernetting. It's a way to more flexibly allocate internet protocol, that is the IP address, by creating unique and more granular identifiers. So basically we'll have to define a range. Based on this range, this VPC will be created. For an example, if we put this 10.0.0.0/24 subnet, so this 24 subnet means, so we have 256 IPs uh, available for this range. So it's like, if we know a little bit about networking, it's like 32 minus 24. The maximum subnet that we can have is 32, but we are defining as a 24. So that means it's 32 minus 24, that is 8. So it will be like 2 to the power 8. So it's 2 to the power 8 means that is comes to 256. So we have 256 IP. So we put in the name, we put in the CIDR, No need to mention about this IPv6 as of now. Tenancy we can put as on default, and then we can just create the VPC. Okay, so our VPC is created. If you can see this, let us click on your VPCs again. Okay, now you see the VPC. My VPC is created. This is the CIDR. Okay. Okay, now let us create subnets to understand what is a subnet. So a subnet is a range of IP address in your VPC. So you can launch your AWS resources such as the instance. It's easy to instance into specific subnet. When you create a subnet, you can specify the CIDR block for that subnet. Basically, the range that is created here, we can further divide into different subnets. For example, we have 256 IP in our for our case right now. We divide this 256 IPs into four different subnet, as in 64, 64, 64, and 64. So we'll try to create that too. We'll try to do it for private, public, and private subnets. So let us create a subnet. Okay, let us select our VPC. So this is our VPC. Okay, we'll put a subnet name as my private underscore private IP underscore 1. Okay, we'll sorry, let me do it again. Okay, this is private subnet 2. Again, add, we'll do as a public IP 1, public IP 2. Now let us understand. Okay, so this is, we are trying to create a four subnet over here. So as I told you, we have 256 IPs. We're going to divide it by 4, that is 64 IPs for each subnet. So how do we do that? How do we achieve it? We'll have to mention the CIDR block here. How do we do it? So it's like 10.0.0.0/26. How do I achieve? How did I get this subnet? So if you remember, we have 10.0.0.24, that means 256. Now we have a subnet of 26, that means 32 minus 26, which comes 6. So if you see, 2 to the power 6 is 64, so it means 64 IPs. So that's how we are achieving this 2 to the power 6. So this is for the private IP 1. So this is 1. For private IP 2, we have to use, so that means 64 IPs 10.0.0 till 10.0.0.64 till 63. We have the IPs allocated here. So next IPs after that is 64. That means from 10.0.0.64 till 10.0.0.127 will be allocated to this particular subnet. Since it's 10.0.0.127 is allocated to the above subnet, so we'll use 10.0.0.128 for this subnet. So 128 till 192 is been used for this public 1 IP 1, and for the last subnet we'll use 193. Since 192 is been used above, we'll use 193. Not 193, it would be 982, to my correction. So that's how we create a subnet. We selected the VPC which we wanted to use, the one we created. Then we added one like subnet of which we put in the subnet name and given the IPv4 CIDR block. We'll create it now. Subnet is created. Okay, great. We can see this the subnet has been created. Private IP2, public IP2, private IP1, public IP1. We have some information as in the VPC which has been used. This is the VPC which we have created that has been used. The IP, the CIDR that has been allocated to each of the subnet. And as you if you remember, I mentioned like each of the subnet will have 64 IPs. But if you see here, the available IP is 59. So that might be someone might be thinking, why if the 64 IPs has been allocated, why do we have the available as 59? So the answer to this is like for the AWS, 5 IP is been used internally. Hence, the available IP is 59. Those 5 IPs are usually the first 4 IP and the last IP. So hence 59 IPs here. This is how we are using the sub created the private and public, just a private and public. This is just for the namesake. We have created 4 different subnets. Now basically now we have to create the route tables. We have to create the route tables as well as the to like the internet gateway. Now to answer the last questions basically, so we have answered 2 questions, which is how to create a VPC, how to create a public subnet and a private subnet. Okay, if you see here now in the route tables basically we have we have two route tables already created, like one. So the one of the route tables is created when we created our new VPC. How do we know that? If we see this route table has the VPC, the one which we created associated to it. Now basically what we can do, we have to associate the subnet to this route tables. Let us associate this one. We'll associate the public IP to this. This is the public IP, this is the public IP associated. Mhm. We'll create one more route. This should be a private RT. We can use our VPC, create it. Let's wait for it. Check. Okay, so we have a private route created as well, and the route which was created by default will basically just edit it to give a name, public RT, so that we don't have problem with the confusion basically with the namings. We can, for the private, we can associate the routes subnets basically. Okay, we have associated. So by default the main, this is the main the main route. If you see it, we did not change or edit this main. So if none of the subnets are been associated to any, by default it will be associated to the this particular the one main route table. So this is, yeah, this is how it is it. Now for the public routes, we have to create something called the internet gateway. How do we create it? So just navigate to the internet gateway, create this internet. So my IGW, create it. Once created, we just have to attach it. How do we attach that? We have to action it, attach to the VPC, select our VPC. Yeah, so this is how now our internet gateway is also created. So what we have done is we have created a VPC. We created different subnets, different range of subnets. We have created different routes basically. For the namesake, we have put is a public route and a private route. And the public route, we have mentioned the public subnets that we intend to add it. Uh, and for the private routes, basically, we have added private. But in this case, we have to, for the private routes, we have to use something called NAT gateways. In this session, we are not creating the NAT gateways because these are chargeable. So that can be, the NAT gateways can also be created uh, something with, by clicking on this and then attach it to the VPCs, and then we can do something like that. But we will not be creating it in this session. And then we created something called the internet gateway and attach it to our VPC, so that the subnets can, the IPs can, communicate to the internet. So yeah, hope this was helpful. Do comment on anything if you want some questions, or like if you want me to improve on something. Thank you.